Hi and welcome to the Wilson Chala's YouTube channel. We are dedicated to preserving and sharing Zambia's rich history through topics like culture, politics, finance, and education. From traditional ceremonies to trending stories, parliament proceedings, and everyday voices, we bridge Zambia's past to its future. Join us in building a timeless digital archive. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and now let us explore the story you've been waiting for.
Leaving a nation since the passing of Michael Sata, the former president of Zambia.
Here is what happened.
In honor of this remarkable event.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is your trusted source for balanced commentary, analysis, documentaries, and latest development from Zambia and beyond. In today's video, we'll carefully examine today's topic by separating the facts from opinions, providing context, and helping you understand why this story matters. I encourage you to watch until the end because the last section always contains the most important concept that you need to watch. Now let's start the video.
So that we're able to benefit from the outcome of national reconciliation and unity. The fact that somebody ultimately was declared the winner, and that is President Hakainde Hichilema, by a legitimate and a mandatory body, that is ECZ, makes it very complicated for any of us to begin to fight that. In as much as it is desirable to go through the courts, we must know that once you begin to petition, you are not bringing political healing. Once you begin to go through the courts, you are using political confrontation. And when you take that path, and if you don't succeed, you cannot go back to the same parties or to the winner to negotiate for dialogue, reconciliation, or peace. We need to take the approach of dialogue and reconciliation so that we're able to benefit from the outcome of national reconciliation and unity. The fact that somebody ultimately was declared the winner, and that is President Hakainde Hichilema, by a legitimate and a mandatory body, that is ECZ, makes it very complicated for any of us to begin to fight that. In as much as it is desirable to go through the courts, we must know that once you begin to petition, you are not bringing political healing. Once you begin to go through the courts, you are using political confrontation. And when you take that path, and if you don't succeed, you cannot go back to the same parties or to the winner to negotiate for dialogue, reconciliation, or peace.
Good day and welcome to today's broadcast. A wonderful day in Zambia, Saturday, but an apprehensive date. We have a lot to share. So kindly share the broadcast, share to your friends, to your colleagues, quickly. There are so many pronouncements and information to share with you. You are aware of the media in Zambia is totally clamped down. They may not say the things we say on this program. So kindly share. Let's have as many people as possible, because usually you have all of you calling me. What is the state of this? What has happened? If they filed the petition, what is what? It's in Pansaka. We share the information that is available, and then my phone then will buzz less. EMV breakfast show this morning. Let's start with the big issues that is affecting our country. Let's start with the matters regarding Honorable Mtoto Kafwaya and the mourning period. Just continue to share the broadcast so to give some of the up-to-date information. We noted, just as colleagues, that there are few people visiting the funeral home. We encourage you, especially you senior leaders, if there's any time the widow needs you, the family needs you, it is now. So my appeal is that find time in your busy schedule, prioritize in your schedule to go and visit the family and support the family. Up to now, cabinet has not come in. Remember, when a minister dies, they are entitled to certain things, including an official or state burial, a funeral and burial. Cabinet office would usually, immediately they hear about the demise of the minister, they'll send staff from state functions, and staff from state functions will coordinate issues of the tent. They'll bring in ZNS to cook. There's something they do always, and they'll plan with the family the burial program. We understand the unusual circumstances in which Honorable Mtoto Kafwaya died. He was killed by special forces. Is a member of the opposition, but when he's a former cabinet minister. When a president, vice president, former vice president or former cabinet minister dies, minister or former dies, it's a duty of cabinet office, secretary to cabinet and his team at state functions to immediately take over the funeral. This has not happened. So you can imagine the financial burden that the family is meeting. So my appeal is to two people. Secretary to Cabinet Patrick Kangwa, immediately deploy your team, shed off the politics, shed off all these issues. Ensure that your team does what it does every time a former cabinet minister or one who's entitled to a state funeral dies. You know the duty that you are supposed to do. These are constitutional entitlements. They are not something the family or all of us should be begging. And to you, senior leaders and others, support the family. Mwako na something, akabunga mwako with something, but visit the funeral home. I know there is a panic and sense of fear in Lusaka with this, exactly the allegation of militia is achieving its intended goal, to scare you, to make you stay away, to make you not to be accused. But we have a death in Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya. The family was given access to the mortal remains of Honorable Kafwaya. They noted something, a very, very swollen head. He was shot in the torso near here, 2 shots. The family is asking for a post-mortem. Again, this is something you colleagues from the party and his friends, because remember, most of the major people like our lawyers, George Sanga, are incarcerated. Brian Mundwile, the leader, Makebi Zulu, are not around. It remains to us that are there, you, the women and others. Please take this plea very serious and go and help the family. I disclosed yesterday that the chief superintendent at Maina Soko was immediately removed and replaced by somebody else. Let me look at my post that I had announced to the country. Because of these issues, it's something, they wanted to do something that was unorthodox in relation to the body, in the manner they wanted to deny that the body was at Maina Soko. There were attempts to, some things unpleasant, but the professional people at Maina Soko refused to budge, and we understand there have been some dramatic changes. The chief superintendent medical officer has been removed. Just let me read that article I'd done. Military raid on the home of leading presidential candidate Brian Mundwile and the killing of former Minister of Transport and Communications Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya. There was great attempt to hide the facts, the bodies, and the possible plot to dispose of the body in a desecrated, illegal, and unorthodox manner. Pick those words, they're very important. Desecrated, illegal, and unorthodox manner. But it appears that the Zambia Army Commander Lieutenant General Chongoziele and his minion and his rogue and controversial Zambia Security Intelligence Services Executive Director Boyd Kayelu didn't receive the cooperation in executing these illegal activities around the mortal remains of Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya. Now we understand the authorities have since removed Maina Soko Medical Center Commandant Brigadier General Dr. Levi Muche. And remember, the media in Zambia is literally under gag. We have threats we understand what Webster Malido at the IBA is doing and how they are threatening institutions like Hot FM, KBN, Millennium. We are aware of everything they are doing, loading over them, and to ensure that what they did is to provide fair coverage during the election, a duty ZNBC should have done. But ZNBC went rogue, totally rogue, and they became like a UPND infrastructure. So where did you hope the opposition will get coverage from? And so this media becomes very important to provide fair information. For our callers, I think let us avoid the calls until we finish the discussions. Let's go to the next issue. The matters relating the burial of the late Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya can only be determined after a postmortem is done, and the postmortem can only be determined after all these issues are resolved between Maina Soko General Hospital, Secretary to Cabinet and Government and the family. That's why I'm saying we need manpower at the funeral to begin coordinating all these issues. For you that knew Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, please go and help the brothers and the children and the widow to do these heavy burdens. We'll go to the militia story because President Hakainde Hichilema wants the militia story to stick. He's throwing all sorts of allegations and several people have been rounded up. Then we'll come to the issue of the petition. After we discuss the issue of the petition, we will discuss some malign activities that are taking place, especially by members of our people. I think those are the key issues that I have. The matters relating to Honorable Mtoto Kafwaya, the militia story, and the impact it's having on our nation, on our democracy, the issues around both election petition and inauguration of President Hakainde Hichilema, who's involved. We need to tell you the story from the side of government as they are investigating and as they are piecing together. My headline has still remained for the last 3 days that state fabricates treason charges against Munduwile and Makebi Zulu. That is the story, and nothing has changed except more information has emerged in the fabrication of these stories. So let's go to this story over the militia.
Watch this video up to the end.
We need to take the approach of dialogue and reconciliation so that we're able to benefit from the outcome of national reconciliation and unity. The fact that somebody ultimately was declared a winner, and that is President Hakainde Hichilema, by a legitimate and a mandatory body, that is ECZ, makes it very complicated for any of us to begin to fight that. In as much as it is desirable to go through the courts, we must know that once you begin to petition, you are not bringing political healing. Once you begin to go through the courts, you are using political confrontation. And when you take that path, and if you don't succeed, you cannot go back to the same parties or to the winner to negotiate for dialogue, reconciliation, or peace.
Now, that's Secretary General of the Tonse Pamoja Alliance, Zumani Zimba. He has flatly refused to be part of the election petition. He has differed with his boss, Brian Munduwile, who has asserted that he has a right to challenge the election results of the president because of the mass irregularities, the presence of soldiers that were present and altering of results, the inflation, the huge inflation of results from Southern Province, where there was such a poor voter turnout, one of the lowest we've seen since 2006. Brian Munduwile wished to bring this to the court to challenge the facts. His own Secretary General here is the first one. And the others that are collaborating, like Celestine Mukandila, you've seen what has happened to, they've bundled him up, arrested him, and they've set the immigration on him. All of a sudden, Celestine, who's been in our country, who's always been in our country, who went to our schools, to our law schools, and to Ziale, who's a practicing lawyer, today is a foreigner. And Emmanuel Mwamba, our constitutional court judge, who was among the three that President Hakainde Hichilema victimized and fired. Today, she's on her third day in the coolers at Richard Kachingwa, and the way they stormed the area like they were picking an armed robbery, ordering her husband not even to move and not even to follow them as they picked her up like she's an armed robber and threw her. We don't even know what happened. I don't know why we're even treating women in the manner that our women are being treated. Remember what happened to Ambassador Martha Lungu? Same. The humiliation. Picking women in a most... it's so bad. It is so bad what's happened to our country. It is so bad. There should be decency in all this. This is a constitutional judge. Her best friends are books. Why lift her and traumatize her with so many soldiers? And then you bundle her and then throw her at some obscure police post. Those are the issues we are dealing with. Everyone around Brian Munduwile has been arrested days before the authorities even went back yesterday. Why did it take them 7 days? And they want to allege this issue of the militia story, but we will delve into the details. They charged the 11 with treason. I want to name them. Let me just get the names quickly. The colleagues that were charged with treason. We have to repeat the facts for purposes. We repeat the facts for emphasis because of the barrage of attacks. Remember, ZNBC has been overtaken by, if you want to be on the news, congratulate the president that he has won elections, you'll be on ZNBC. They want to flood the country with messages. Anyone who will congratulate the president, that will be the news. Why? They don't want the fact that these elections are disputed, that Brian Munduwile and Makebi Zulu are trying to file the petition in the Constitutional Court, which is being prevented. They don't want the facts to emerge that this election was stolen. They don't want the facts to emerge that you are the military participate in the election, not to provide security, but as participants even to alter results, confiscate Gen 20. They don't want that story to emerge. It's harming their credibility. So you will be inundated with information that is useless, that doesn't build our country, that wants to bury the truth. Like I've always stated here, the only crime Brian Munduwile and Makebi Zulu did was to participate in this election and to receive the wide support that they received from you. That is their only crime that they did. They were coming from the African Union Observer Mission meeting, because the observers have been meeting various stakeholders. They had struggled to meet Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu because they were in the field. By the time they were in the country, they were in Northern. I remember they had started the marathon when we started receiving the first request for the observers, whether it was EU, SADC, and others to meet them. They were in Lundazi. And, for 3 weeks they were away. So just a day before elections, or 14th, just after the election, that's the time that now Brian Mundubile had an opportunity to meet the African Union Commission. The observer mission was led by former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Haile Mariam Desalegn Boshe. When they came from the entourage, when they came from meeting the African Union, just when they arrived, Brian Mundubile was with Honorable Mtoto Kafwaya, was with UNIP President Bishop Trevor Mwamba, was with his presidential affairs officer George Kangwa, and the person who's been managing their logistics, Patrick Mwansa. Patrick Mwansa, the spouse to Honorable Tasila Lungu. And the others were Richard Banda, his security men, the 3 ex-servicemen. Remember the ones that are saying they were commandos on the premises? No. The 3 ex-servicemen, Jackson Mutioka, Brazil Soko, and Bernard Chewe, had come 3 weeks into the election to help with security on Brian Mundubile, because now there were so many threats on Brian Mundubile's life. You remember, even went to church and said, every time we are on top of that vehicle, it's a prayer for us, because we don't know if we'll be taken away. So while we are waving to our people, we are muttering prayers, and prayers we are speaking in tongues. That's what Brian told them. So there was so much security threat around them. These 3 ex-servicemen who are saying they are commandos that were found at the residence have previously worked for FAS and for the presidential lawyer, Keith Mwamba. Keith Mwamba, if you look at the pictures, he has been with his servicemen. They left the service, and we understand one of them was heavily victimized by the current head of the commando, just because he was well known, well decorated in the country, and received so much praise. But that's a story for another day. So you have 4. They are coming from the African Union: Bishop Trevor Mwamba, George Kangwa, Patrick Mwansa, the 3 ex-servicemen, Jackson Mutioka, Brazil Soko, and Bernard Chewe. And then you had Simon Piri, Richard Banda, the ADC, Francis Mulenga, Emmanuel Mwamba, and Darius Mwila. As soon as they were settling at home on Kudu Road, 212 Kudu Road, as soon as they arrived home, and Mrs. Mundubile was trying to prepare them something to drink or eat, and they were just settling in the living room, a BDRIM vehicle. I don't know if you know what a BDRIM vehicle. Do you know what a BDRIM vehicle? Type in the comments. That camouflage military vehicle stormed in, brought down the gate, and over 40 or so military men, the commandos, stormed in. Everything happened in a flash. What Richard Banda did was to rush to where Brian Mundubile and the entourage were in the living room and usher them upstairs. We've repeated those facts. And, the shooting of Honorable Mtoto Kafwaya and maybe another person. We understand Richard Banda is okay. There was a rumor that he had died, but he's okay. So the 11 yesterday, because Bishop Mwamba was, Trevor Mwamba was detained in Matero, in Central Police, Patrick Mwansa, and the 3 ex-servicemen. And then the rest were taken to Charleston Police, where there was Honorable Chisanga. And so they were charged with treason. And the other day we had announced that they are going to charge Brian Mundubile and Makebi these treason charges, and they are going to throw to prison for a long time, because before you can make an appearance, I saw some stakeholders saying, no, Brian Mundubile and Makebi should just surrender and go to court. They'll prove their innocence. It's easier said than done. There will be a story of the appearance in High Court that sometimes takes up to 2 years. There could be prominent figures. They may be lucky if they appear in court in the next 6 months. The only appearance they will appear is in the magistrate court to be committed to the High Court, and the matter will be buried. There are people that you find in prison, that I found in prison, hadn't been to court for 5 years. The case of Mubipiri, we told you, it took a concerted lobby for her to begin to appear in court. So people that are saying it's easy, let them just surrender and they'll appear in court, they'll clear their case. Do you know the conditions of our prison? Especially when you are innocent of the charges that they are alleging on you. The United Nations Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk, urged President Hakainde Hichilema to stop these arbitrary arrests, to stop these detentions and disappearance of people. What is government's, this militia story? Let's tell you how they've crafted it. So they are alleging, let's start with the guns. They are alleging that at the premises, they found guns and high-grade military weapons, including some grenades. That's what they're alleging. Were the guns found and high-grade military guns found at these premises? No. In fact, the sack of guns came with the commandos. Because among the 11 witnesses, they've whispered that while they were being beaten, they were being dragged and they were being taken into the cars, and there was all these things happening. There was a white Range Rover that was behind these three convoys, a white Range Rover, where this sack of guns came. And the 3-4 guys quickly came. I'm told they put near the door this sack and weapons, and they started taking a picture or a video. Wow, there was this. They called an ambulance from Maina Soko to come and pick the injured, but they didn't pick Mtoto Ekafwaya. No. We don't know who they picked in that ambulance because they didn't pick Mtoto Ekafwaya, who was bleeding profusely. And so we can challenge them with those facts. The guns came from themselves. There were no guns on the premises. There was no exchange of fire. If there was exchange of fire, the 3 ex-servicemen and the ordinary people that were outside would have been dead. They would have been shot. Mundubile and the entourage that came from the AU, the executives, were in the living room trying to have tea. There was no exchange of fire. They're trying to manufacture that there was an exchange of fire. They're even alleging that Honorable Mtoto Ekafwaya fired some shots. Total lies. The first time this happened on Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, we held the broadcast that they had to call people from the forensic department of the Zambia police, and they attempted to begin to manufacture these lies when they were trying to dispose of the body, so that they claimed that they didn't know he was there, or that they didn't even pick him at all, that he's among those that ran away. Remember the first statement by the Secretary to Cabinet. He said some people ran away. So they wanted to fabricate that Honorable Mtoto Ekafwaya was among those that ran away, and then remain unaccounted for. That is why there have been these changes at Maina Soko, where they think that the team at Maina Soko didn't cooperate with their illegal activities. So that's number one. They want to allege that there were guns there. And they want to allege that there was an Auzi, that Israel-American gun. That's a very high sophisticated gun. Those guns didn't come from anyone. They want to allege that these guns were cleared from Nakonde border. That's why they've detained Lucas Mumba, the MP that won, and they're looking for Honorable Francis Kapianga and Honorable Stephen Kampiongo. They are being mentioned from what we understand. Then remember the 3 ex-servicemen, the ones that Shapwaya, the head of commando unit, victimized and fired. Amashinaba Kwata Festi, number 2, one of them is a decorated commando. He frustrated them out. They tried to survive, and they tried to offer VVIP protection. I don't know any leader, including President Hakainde, who doesn't use ex-servicemen, either ex-policemen or ex-soldiers, to protect them in this campaign. Just look at all their bodyguards. They all have some kind of these bodyguards. But these 3 ex-servicemen, they are alleging, is that they were running a private firm. That's why they were providing security services to FAS. They were providing security to Keith Mwamba. They have to survive. The only thing they know in their lives, they've been at as Zambia Army for over 20 years. What else do they know? That's a civilian thing to do. They want to categorize them that they were training militias under Brian Mundubile. The other matter is a planted matter. The issue of the 4 young people that were sent to Russia for training. They want to anchor the story there, especially for the diplomatic and American and other Western society, that we are under attack from Russia. Russia was trying to train militias for this opposition leader. Therefore, let's not give him power. That's a story they want to manufacture and plant. And this story, this issue of training to Russia actually came from the state. The state are the one that organized for this day. And Zumania made Bowden Findlay buy tickets. And now they're alleging that Bowden was financing terrorism. That's how Bowden comes in. And Bowden had list the tracks for PA system at the campaign rally. They are saying he was financing terrorism. So here's what they've done. The activities of Brian Mundubile and Makebizulu have been categorized. The political activities that they were doing as an opposition party have been categorized as terrorism activities. That they were planning to overthrow government, that they were planning unconstitutional change of government. They sent people to Russia for training for that people. They brought in military high-grade weapon, and they are alleging then they had financiers. So whoever contributed to the movement, they are categorizing them as those that financed terrorism activities. You see how they've criminalized the entire infrastructure. Why are they going to this great lengths? Because Brian Mundubile won the elections. That's all. Brian Mundubile is supposed to be your next president. They have stolen that election from him. So they want to bury that fact with these things. I feel pity. There are so many people that funded President Hakainde Hichilema in opposition for many years. Not that Rupia Banda didn't know, not that Mwanawasa didn't know, not that Michael Sata didn't know, not that Rupia Banda, Edgar Lungu didn't know. They knew who was financing the UPND, external and internal. They never victimized them. In fact, President Hakainde Hichilema's own companies kept on having business with government. Both Michael Sata and Edgar Lungu never stopped entities like Africa Life Insurance from having government business. They never. They were too civil. This man now is saying, whoever financed Mundubile, whoever contributed fuel, whoever contributed anything, they were financing terrorism. And they are using a set of Indians to fight another set of Indians. You can see who were names as funding Brian Mundubile. So it's a set of Indians fighting each other, using us. And they want to use the state infrastructure to fight other Indians that they don't get along with, and allege that they're the ones that were. For the state and President Hakainde Hichilema, they are going to accuse these Indians that and some Zambians like Bowden Findlay that they supported terrorism. There's even, that's why I named out and I pointed out Webster Malido is a dear good friend of mine for many years. But the things they're using him for, because they want to deregister KBN, Hot FM and Millennium TV, to allege that they supported terrorism activities. So media coverage has become terrorism coverage because you covered or played the song of Brian Mundubile. All this is to send a serious panic and fear, both in the business community, in the media, and in other sectors. And no one is spared. That's why they can lift a poor woman whose job has just been to save our country as constitutional judge, treat her like a criminal, and throw her away at Richard Kachingwe. They are sending a message that no one is sacred, that no one is sacred in their pursuit to hide the story that a Zambia Army commander has helped President Hichilema steal this election. And ECZ and Mangala Zalomis have participated in this fraudulent crime. That is why they don't want an election petition. They don't want an election petition. In fact, I can disclose to you that plans for the inauguration are very, very advanced. They want to hold inauguration at Parliament grounds because Lusaka is still very hostile. They want some dignitaries to come, but they were planning that if there is no petition by Monday, as early as possible, the president must be sworn in. The country and the constitution gives up to 2 weeks in case there is a petition. And here is their second plan. And let's come to the petition and the status of the petition. Let me give you now the details. I think I've covered everything, how they want to victimize everyone in this issue of militia, and how they want a story to stick. And you should remember that President Hakainde Hichilema, he's got Tony Blair on his side, so they are tackling Western media. So you see favorable coverage in Bloomberg, in Reuters. That's Tony Blair's infrastructure working. Locally, of course, he has clamped down on the media. ZNBC, then they've got in their pockets news diggers, Kalimba and others who are now parroting these stories. And then there are other independent and radio stations. They cannot risk. And I've just disclosed to you that reach a better audience. Brian Mundubile update. Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu remain holed up at the United Nations. Since they're under the shelter of the United Nations, they do not have access to their phones. They may not communicate to you. They may not answer your phones. These are dangerous circumstances. Why is Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu at the United Nations to seek shelter? If Brian had said, let me stay home and bring my own security, they were going to allege. They were going to allege that the militia is keeping him. He's still a man under mark. This is a man that has won election and the election has been stolen away from him. Makebi Zulu is his running mate. So they feared for their lives and they feared very dangerously. There were many reports of security fear against him, but the ultimate was a military invasion at his home, and they didn't care whether he had his wife, his spouse, with the 3 children that were present. They didn't care. So you can imagine his mindset. So they drove that day to the United Nations, and the United Nations, if accommodated them for now, sheltered them will be the word. The UN resident coordinator, Beatrice Mutiti, she's been under so much pressure. But, you know, her term has come to an end. She went to attempt to bid her farewells with the president, had given her an appointment, and she was not seen. She was sent to the vice president. They've been under immense pressure. She has since left. There's a deputy to her who's now superintending over these affairs. And since there is no substantive head of mission at the United Nations, this matter has been escalated to New York. From my understanding, is that there were still sinister plans because Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation wrote a request to the United Nations country office in Zambia, demanding that Brian Mundwile and Makibi Zulu be released as they were facing criminal charges. So the UN said we can only release them if they are willing to leave the station themselves because they are seeking shelter. You know the case of Julian Assange, who hid in London under, Ecuadorian embassy for up to almost 10 years. So under the Vienna Convention, we respect that. I experienced the same issue when they were looking for one of our staff in Ethiopia, because she comes from Tigray, and they were looking for her. And the first day she came, she didn't know they were following Ethiopian militia. Ethiopian authority soldiers were looking for her. So she had just driven into the embassy, and they just stood outside. They couldn't come in, our humble embassy. And I came to understand what was happening. Foreign Affairs asked, we said, she's our worker here. But the point is, they couldn't come in the embassy. And I remember that she wrote even a note 4 or 5 years later when she finally came to the US and congratulated me for standing with her. So there's nothing the government can do. They had sinister plans. They refused. They put so much pressure. And the plot was evil. If that day Brian Mundwile and Makibi Zulu had walked out of the UN, they were going to be picked and then set free. We don't know what could have happened to them. They could have been shot, and they could have been accused of trying to run away. So it's good that they stayed put, but we don't know for how long, because this matter is here at the UN. I was trying to make some phone calls here at the United Nations, and they are all busy because, we are going to have a new Secretary General. As soon as the presidents begin to arrive in the next 2 weeks, there will be a new election for a new Secretary General. So there are a lot of hive of activities around the campaign, including the office of the Secretary General. But that matter has been brought here. If we obtain any further information, we'll let you know. Now, the second matter is that they don't want Brian Mundwile in roaming freely. They don't want Makibi Zulu roaming freely because they may file a petition, they may sign affidavits, they may present a credible petition to the Constitutional Court of our country. President Hakainde Hichilema doesn't want that. That is why I was telling you that he has flooded ZMBC with all congratulations. If you want to be famous, just congratulate the president for winning the elections and tell him that he should rule the next 5 years properly. Find words, you'll be on ZMBC. You probably will be #1 lead story. They want to defeat the true narrative, the story that the mission observer missions observed. They want to bury the story which our monitors and party agents saw. They want to bury the story that the Zambia army have installed President Hakainde Hichilema as our new president. So they want to flood with legitimacy. I don't know how many members of UPND sent that congratulation from the US Embassy in Zambia. Wamona, US never to congratulate. Wachikata Hichilema, ali wina. We are Christians and we are diplomats. But even when I looked at the congratulatory note, I looked at the words that were said by the ambassador in 2006 to Levi Mwanawasa, 2008 to Rupia Banda, 2011 to Michael Sata, 2015 to Edgar Lungu, 2016 to Edgar Lungu, 2021 to Hakainde Hichilema. See that congratulation from the US ambassador and the latest one. Then you come back and tell me, in diplomacy, what we say and what we don't say is a lot of expression. If I say something, it means a lot. If I don't say something, it even means more than what I have said. So you compare the congratulatory notes that were given to Zambian presidents at the Bonn elections and look at this current one. Or just compare the one in 2021 to President Hakainde Hichilema and the current one. Then you tell me if that's a proper congratulations. So primal mission by President Hakainde Hichilema is that there should be no petition. Inauguration should go on. He wants to establish himself quickly. That is why treacherous elements like Zumanzima can speak in the manner that they are speaking. Of course, then you can wonder, if Zuman was Secretary General, why haven't they arrested him? Why would they arrest an alliance member like Bishop Trevor Mwamba? Why would they arrest Abantu Awakailewa Bishop? I love this man. I love Bishop. He's such an innocent man. Such an innocent man. And all he has done for our country is distinguished service. He was our luminary and ambassador, serving in Botswana for many years. His wife from a decent family, the first president of Botswana. He served in England And he's respected worldwide. His crime is that he accompanied Brian Mundwile that day, and he was waiting to have tea with Brian Mundwile that day. Today, there are treason charges on his head. Is that truly fair? Is that truly fair? George Isanga, Umwina Lukasha, Impalume, Umwina Kasama, distinguished record. He was one of our lawyers that was serving for PT and was based in Nairobi for many years. He was our last president. And, in the last 5 years, there were many attempts to shut George. He stood firm. He didn't go for opportunities. He didn't act like Robert Chabinga or Sande Chanda or Mao Sampa. He didn't. He stood resolute. And he stood resolute with Brian Mundwile in this scheme. And they structured a proper campaign. Today he's sitting with a treason charge because he took his president to meet the African Union Commission, observer mission, and came back to leave the president to rest, and then probably now go and he himself rest. It was not to be, And today he's standing with treason charges. Our dear brother Mutoto Kafwaya. Again, all he did, as a chairperson for finance, all he did was to accompany Brian Mundwile to that AU meeting. That was his crime, nothing else. And he was shot dead, killed by our own members of our own army. And you want to tell me that Mutoto Kafwaya is a leader, is a co-leader of a militia gang? Is that how far we have fallen,
News social media, Mdubile masoja ya muenela. They aimed at his life, kaili mavoti yevebana mubela. Mavoto alipela Mdubile, but my results need different story. You stole his vote, we are now a military state. Who will speak for the people? Now that Kafwaya.
Patrick Mwansa. His only crime is that he came to help Brian's campaign. He joined the campaign and was helping with administration and campaign management. That's his crime. A civic leader, a young businessman, just because he's married to Honorable Tasila Lungu. And Tasila Lungu's father is President Edgar Lungu. Edgar Lungu's a and a beef that no one understands. Even in his death, he lies punished by President Hakainde Hichilema. Even in his death, that's the only crime that this young man did. Now today he should be charged with treason charges. He should be beaten in the manner he was beaten. I don't understand why they tortured Patrick Mwansa. I don't know why they tortured him. I don't understand. Up to now I'm failing to my head to come around why he was tortured in the manner that he was tortured. A lot of you were calling me, is he dead, is he dead? I told you, here on this platform, we deal with verified information. I refused to confirm things I didn't know, just in the excitement of social media. I refused. I said until I speak to someone. And we had to get a lawyer. The lawyer had to see him. Then we confirmed he hadn't passed on, he was all right. Of course, he had some injuries from the torture that he received, but he's okay. But he now stands with this torture. They are harassing our lawyers. They don't want the petition to go ahead. Wakateka, you are calling for peace. People like Zumana are saying we should put this election behind. You are saying let us just all calm down and allow the president to rule. But if you want to rule, is this what you do? You charge your friends who actually won an election with treason. You lump false charges and fake charges on them. You actually engineered this trip to Russia and made the leaders fall into a trap because you are the treacherous fella at the heart of it who organized this. And if Brian and Makebi Zulu had consulted me on this, I would have told them that's a red flag. Don't send anyone to Russia. I would have told them so. But like they say, treachery is so painful because the people that are treacherous to you are the ones that are next to you, the one you trust most. The story of sending these 4 young men to Russia is a state plot. It was planted in there. Vauden Finlay's charity, goodness, bought tickets. Now he lies being accused of funding terrorism. This was a plot from them for the day like this. Remember what I've told you? President Hakainde Hichilema has image builders from London. He has Tony Blair on his side. He has Dr. Greg Mills on the other from the just defunct Brentes Foundation. They knew this day would come. To lump that Brian is being sponsored by Russia or immediately creates Brian's activities, what we call malign activities. And malign activities are inimical activities to the state and to the US who support us up to $500, $600 million a year. Immediately you come under the red radar. So this was planted on them for this story. If anyone had asked that we have this opportunity, I would have told them, why are you sending people for training 4 weeks before we end the election? Why? Why are you sending them for such a short course? And why to Russia? You don't involve these superpowers because they lay claim to our country. They want our minerals. Zambia is endowed with these rare minerals. And there's fierce competition who should have access to them. So you don't make those rookie mistakes like in introducing Russia in the process. You lay yourself bare. Because I would have asked you, you have a socialist president who's well connected to China and Russia, Fred Membe. Why didn't he send his people to Russia? Because he's aware that he cannot do that in this environment. He cannot even send. He would rather use ex-policemen or ex-soldiers from Zambia. It was totally naive. I don't blame our leaders because they walked into a trap set by the state. And you sent those 4 young men. And the 4 young men are now your biggest evidence that you were training militias and you are taking people for training to Russia. A plot that has come from the state. It was totally naive. And like I'm saying, if Russia wanted to train anyone, Fred Membe is a good candidate. But why is Fred Membe not involved? Because he knows the geopolitics. Former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Harry Kalaba, is well connected to all capitals in New York, in Beijing, in Moscow. He's well connected. Why wouldn't he send anyone for training there? He knows the geopolitics. This story was planted on us, the naivety of the secretariat and the trust by our leaders. They didn't see that it's a trap. Today it's haunting us. It's haunting us because they are using it as evidence. And those boys who've been caught, to these fabricated charges. So here is the second step they have. In the unlikely event, because with all the harassment they're doing, in the unlikely event that we file in our petition, lawyers be aware that they've planned for a preliminary application to dismiss the case. They're going to use Ezra Tembo and NRPUP. Ezra Tembo is going to come to court and is going to say, we removed Brian Mundubile, we sponsored him as a presidential candidate. Therefore, we are working with President Hakainde Hichilema. We wish not to proceed with any petition. We have withdrawn our candidate, so he has no local stand. So lawyers begin to research around. They are going to bring Ezra, and they'll bring that Dr. Patrick Piri for Resolute Party. Is also going to say the same things, that we've removed Makebi Zulu and we don't want to be part of this. We have congratulated the president, so that they leave the 2 candidates bare, so that now the issue of local stand comes in before they even discuss the evidence against President Hakainde's re-election. In the likely event that we manage to bring that petition into court, there will be that first preliminary application by the state. And there are star witnesses there, are boys who have benefited from the hard work. I feel very bad. The manner in which Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu worked, when they left home 2 months ago, they only came back on election day, 2 days before election, to Lusaka. They worked so hard. Even in the midst that the election has been stolen, Brian Mundubile and Makebi managed to have 65 for Resolute Party and 60 for Brian Mundubile, 65 seats. Now they are being taken away. There's an attempt. Ezra Tembo now is saying, I'm the president. We are the largest opposition. Nana mwishwa Ezra Tembo. Nana mwene kofe nangu campaign. Na kuda kuina wini ne kudaga mashoti. Tela mpi, ili kwa Mundubile, ili dengerate ya wine kudia. And today he's saying he's the largest opposition party and we are going to support President Hakainde Hichilema. So lawyers who are handling this matter, be worried. In the event that you finally file an application, they want it dismissed out as soon as possible using that preliminary. Let me show you this Ezra Tembo, who's saying he has 60 MPs. Alala mumpanga asumwa. Today his best friend Mtoto Kafoyala is dead. Now who I sat here, I have 60 MPs. The extent of treachery in our country, for me, I don't understand.
This is no small achievement. We also congratulate President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND on their victory. We congratulate the over 60 NRPUP MPs, council chairpersons, mayors, and councillors across the country. The way forward The election is over. It is time for Zambia to focus on development. We call on all Zambians to give President Hichilema and the UPND space to work, and as we offer checks and balances, we let norms prevail and let's engage in Parliament and other establishment democratic platform. As the official opposition, NRPUP will provide checks and balances to ensure accountability and good governance. In conclusion, we urge all our members nationwide to desist from any form of political violence. Democracy is about respecting the will of the people, and sometimes it is not perfect, but this is the standard we have chosen to be governed by. This was not our time. We accept the outcome and remain committed to serving Zambians. This press statement has been released in consultation with the leadership of Tonse Alliance. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Zambia.
We need to take the approach of dialogue and reconciliation so that we're able to
and I made a request to Cabinet Office. This is a former Cabinet Minister. There are constitutional and government obligations to a funeral such as this. There are changes that have occurred at Minor Soko, where the Chief Medical Superintendent has been removed and they've placed another. The family, of course, is expected to do a post-mortem and plan for the burial service. The militia story, they want to plant guns. They want to plant guns and other things on Mundubile, and we demonstrated. And they've got persons of interest, you know, Stephen Kampiongo, Lucas Mumba, and Francis Kapianga, and Binwa Mpundu. Binwa Mpundu, for his remarks, if you remember the remarks that he apologized for, but they want him. Then there's been a threat on the media. What did the media do? Why do you want Webster Malido? Why do you want to punish KBN? Why do you want to punish Hot FM? Why do you want to punish Millennium TV? And you want to say they were involved in supporting malign activities, and then you want to go for businessmen because the Indian community fight against one another and they have a habit of using the presidency and the state. You know, I remember the funny story when for the first time the Chinese came into Lusaka, and you know, they were opening up shops around Kamwala and they were being deported. When an investigation took place, it appeared that, you know, those that were losing business, our Indian brothers on this side, were financing the deportation of those Chinese. So our foreign nationals should live at peace. You supported President Hakainde Hichilema. Some could have supported the opposition. Where is the problem? Why do you want to criminalize only one set of support? What about the support that you gave to President Hakainde Hichilema? Why is it not criminal? Why do you want to use a state to, you know, to allege that we're financing terrorism and you want them picked up? No. The inauguration is underway. They are preparing. They hope that the petition doesn't go through so they can go in overdrive. But they've given themselves latitude in this matter of the inauguration because the election is stolen. The election disputed, and the major media organization in the world have reported that the election is disputed. Probably President Hakainde Hichilema would like to have an elaborate, with well-invited guests to his inauguration to show legitimacy that he won the election. The petition is still under peril. They have up to Monday to file their petition. I've just told you their plans is that they want to use Ezra Tembo as a star witness and Dr. Martin Piri as a star witness from Resolute Party. The two are going to raise the issue of locust stand, that they remove Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu. They sponsored them into those positions. But you and I know that NRPUP is just a special purpose vehicle for many political parties under Tonse. Resolute Party is just a special purpose vehicle for many political parties under Pamosi Alliance. And together they chose to support the presidential candidate of Brian Mundubile under NRPUP. But this is just an alert to the lawyers that in the event that our petition is finally filed, they want to raise the issue of locust stand. That's why it becomes imperative that other people, Lars and others, should file the petition, because the law allows citizens to file the petition to say, my election, Nimberenga Mission Observer Report Shawa EU. you have a church grouping, you have a SADC, you have African Union. I think our elections are and free and fair. You can petition as a citizen. You don't have to rely on Brian Mundwil and Makebi Zulu. Stakeholders like LAS, Transparency International, can petition. Here, LAS has just had a successful petition when President Hakainde Hichilema appointed an illegal person as Auditor General. The law is very clear. Auditor General must be 45 years and below 60. They want that maturity for one key reason. To attend to the theft and plunder of national resources by civil service, public service, and the politician that loot the treasury. Remember, we allocate up to $3.5 billion every year for expending, and that money is usually looted. So you need an Auditor General who's quite mature. That's why they cap it at 45. I mean, the base is 45. Floor edge is 45. The ceiling is 66.0. And you have Dr. Ronnie Mwamba, who is now, I think, 66 years of age. He's not eligible constitutionally. It's not that we don't like the man. He's a good man, but he's not eligible according to the Constitution. Laz has just won that case. Laz can petition this case. So stop targeting the media. President Hakainde Hichilema has repeatedly said he will not close any media. Someone has written that Ambassador, speak about the propaganda that was unleashed on Prime TV. There's a video they've written with a fake narrative. They're using AI to demonstrate that they found military and high-grade weapons at Brian Mundwil, and it's an alarming video. I saw it earlier. Is it on Curfew at Times or something? They had used it earlier on some small, obscure online media, but yesterday Prime TV aired the dirty propaganda. Kubaleka, in and now I trust the people of Zambia. If you say Mwamba is a propagandist, then why are people watching me? So if you bring out things that people can see, they can see through it, you know? Yeah. And so I think let's open the phone lines. We want to say Sabbath for those going to church, they can go to church. For you that wish to do, you want to do something, you want to work in the garden Saturday, please make the call so that we can quickly let you go and close. Let's hear what your views are. Let me switch on the phones.